Bolt your windows. Lock your doors. Check your closets. Look under your bed. And then prepare yourself. For it's another episode of Dark Night of the Podcast.
Dark Night of the Podcast, friends and family. I think we're at the point where Troy and I should almost give you all like nicknames. Like, doesn't Mariah Carey call her like fans like her lambs or like her lambs? So we're gonna come up with something here. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. But I want to come in with a warmer greeting from now on for our listeners. But I'm gonna tell you, for those of you who have been on this roller coaster with us, with Troy and I, my sister right here, and myself, when I say that it's all come down to this, guys. This is something that has been a long time coming for us. I would say maybe 5 to 10 episodes in, we attempted to cover this film years back, and I was devastated to find that it had been removed from streaming. It was on streaming. Troy will attest. I know she'll speak out on my behalf. And then it was gone, poofed, gone, like a vixen in the night. She just disappeared into the shadows, never to be seen again until recently on Tubi. God bless Tubi, the gifts it gives. This truly is one of the greatest gifts that could be given to me, because this is a film that I'm going to admit something to you all. This is very vulnerable. As a teen, as a high school student, because this is 2001, we're talking. This is a good year, 2001. Nelly Furtado had just come out. We were basking in it, and this film was my obsession. When I say that as a junior in high school, this film defined my life. I absolutely mean it, down to the fact that the hair, the clothing, AJ Cook in this movie. As a teen, I molded myself in hopes that I could become part AJ Cook in what is Ripper, Letter from Hell. And the other half of my personality was just defined by AJ Cook in Final Destination 2, as Kimberly. And these two characters, I became so infatuated with these two variations of AJ Cook for a period of my life that it was an obsession. I owned articles of clothing because I thought it looked like these characters. I dyed my hair an unappealing orange, rust-colored, reddish tone, hoping to replicate the strange hair color she has in this film that we're going to cover. But this film really, truly meant a lot to me as a child. Now, at 38, to revisit this film, I hope you all had dinner or a hearty meal, or at least brought a snack before diving into this episode, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be as long-winded as my intro, but it deserves it. Troy, how do you feel about the fact that we're covering this film today? Let me hear it.
Oh, yeah, this one, I had seen this when it came out. I talk many times about my career, my short career that I had working for several video stores. I worked at Hollywood Video when I was in high school, and then I worked at like a Mr. Movies when I was in college, and I believe that's where I first caught wind of this film through the DVD cover art as one of our new releases, and I took it home and watched it. And there was scenes that I definitely I think stood out to me. And I can see now that you say that this film, Roger, had such an impact on you, it makes a lot of sense. Like, I can see it in your filmmaking style, the things that you appreciate in film, the things that you're trying to incorporate into your own films. Say what you want about this film, but God, this is it's an ambitious film. It is a flashy film, and I know you like flashy. It's a film with a lot of style. I know you like your films with a lot of style. This, for a slasher film, this strikes a lot of chords that you don't typically see in a slasher film. The setups to the deaths are incredible. Problem is, it's bogged down by a very, very heavy script. And the problem ends up being that I ultimately think this film thinks it's way smarter than it actually is. And it clocks in at almost 2 hours long. And that works for some slasher films, but this one has a lot of fluff that could have easily been cut out of it.
It was so weird revisiting this movie because it has been years. It has been years since I have watched this film. Not since I owned it on VHS. I didn't even have it on DVD. I had it on VHS, to be clear. And yeah, I just hadn't. I thought I had so many specific memories about this movie, and there are certain things I remember very clearly. There's certain scenes that I'm like, oh my gosh, frame for frame, I remember that. But there's other elements of the story that I was like, oh my God, like either when I was so young, I just didn't understand what was going on. I was just so caught up in the flashiness of all of it that I didn't realize like that this story makes absolutely no fucking sense. It is a film that, in retrospect, I hate saying it, but it's a film that really, in a lot of ways, doesn't manage to do anything right. Like it's always grasping for ideas. It's got some cool concepts. It's got some good setups for a couple of its kills, but there's always something in its way. And like, it's from the sluggish pacing with the script that is just meandering all over the fucking place, focusing on certain characters and their angst instead of like focusing on the kills themselves is a big problem here. The setups, you mentioned the setups to the kills, like there are some really big setups to see some grand sequences, but there's a lot of major letdowns in the outcomes of those sequences. And like, it's just, I would be amiss to acknowledge that, to not state that this is a film that now as an adult, I feel is a very flawed project. It's ambitious, but it is flawed. Like I can't help but deny that. And that is saying that is, coming back with a lot of nostalgia of having, really enjoyed this as a youth. It was fun to revisit this movie, but I can't help but acknowledge that, wow, I think this film misses way more than it hits, which is disappointing, but I've come to terms with it. I've accepted it. It's part of my duty to dissect this film from an honest standpoint. And, that I'm being as honest as possible and saying the movie that I grew up really loving maybe wasn't quite as deserving of the praise and admiration that I showered upon it as a youth,
Yeah, but I mean, I can see why a angsty teenager would gravitate towards this film. I can see why an angsty teenager would make a connection with AJ Cook. One of the big issues I have with this film right off the bat is that her character is, you have like all the trauma that, affected characters like Laurie Strode and, Sally Hardesty in the latest rendition of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It made them like tough ass bitches, right? These gals are ready to kick some ass. The trauma that Molly encounters turns her into a fucking cunt. Like she is unbearable. Like she is one of the biggest like bitches, cunty characters I've ever encountered as a lead character. Like right off the bat, like this girl is, just huge chip on her shoulder, but not in a way that seems like she is like traumatized by what happens to her. Does that make sense? Like there's no sense of like grief in her character. There's no sense of like, oh, I'm a bitch because all my friends were brutally murdered on this island and I don't know. No, she just seems like she thinks she's better than everybody else. And she just has this air of cuntiness about her that is really hard to gravitate towards. And then the decisions like she makes throughout the film are like baffling. And I think that these characters, while they're let's be real, these are like the most one-dimensional, paper-thin characters. They have no distinct personality. Even the two guys have the exact same personality, the Jason and the Eddie. Again, I think we should just get into this film. And guys, obviously we're talking about Ripper Letters from Hell. If you've never seen this film, because I would feel like this is pretty obscure, right? I mean, it's probably on the same. It came out around the same time as like The Pool, which we covered, and The Nun, which we covered, and we were supposed to close out our trifecta of foreign themed slasher flicks that are supposed to take place in America with this one all those years back, and it never happened. Well, here we are. So, guys, if you've never seen Ripper Letters from Hell, I'm gonna challenge you to find it on Tubi and watch it. I just wish throughout this film, I just kept saying, I really wish there was an editor that was not afraid to cut some of this shit down. I feel like the film opens strong. It's a bold opening. The film opens with basically Molly, blonde Molly at this point, young blonde Molly, like on an island being chased by a unseen killer who has literally like slaughtered all of her friends. I'm assuming they went to this island for like a weekend spring break, and it turned into your typical slasher movie fodder where somebody showed up and started killing them off. And we get some really good visuals. Like we get her friend that she finds like dying as he's like buried in all the mud. We get some bloody boobs nailed to a tree, that broad that's nailed to a tree. It's storming out. Lots of atmosphere. She's running around. It's very frantic. We don't know where the killer is. I mean, this bitch jumps into a fucking river and swims out to a fucking boat, and the killer follows her, and she finds like more dead people. I mean, it is really, I think, a really bold way to open a film, to put us like where we typically would end in a slasher film. We're beginning, and it's kind of cool, actually.
We open, and it's giving me like Friday the 13th mixed with Harper's Island. It's a really like cool setup. It's right in your face. You don't really know exactly what's happening. You know, the storm is so epic. Her platinum blonde hair is horrible. Like it is, but it is very of the era. So like, okay. And then, yeah, like it opens strong. It opens loud. It opens with a lot of energy. And I feel like this is an energy that the movie could have used more of, but like it does not maintain. But yeah, so you get this like this really brief sequence. There is like a body count, like several people die. A girl gets pulled into the fucking like the boat, like she gets, but there's no blood, but you see her get sucked underneath into I'm assuming into the propeller or what have you, you know, and then you have this like figure of this killer pursuing her, and like this man is climbing up the side of the boat wearing like a full trench coat and boots, like galoshes, like he somehow has swam over this like to this boat completely clothed. And I'm like, this seems like a lot of work. But I mean, all this stuff is happening, and she basically manages to kill the guy. What does she do? She knocks him back into the water, right?
Yeah, she stabs his hand as he falls into the water, and then she's able to like drift away on this boat. Yeah, there is a body count. We see lots of dead bodies, and then as the boat's drifting away, we get our first reference that this movie is Jack the Ripper inspired, because the boat itself is named Mary Kelly, which I believe Mary Kelly was one of the first victims of Jack the Ripper. There's a lot of little things like that throughout the film. That's the opening scene. It's frantic. It's energetic. It's electric. I really like this opening scene. But then
where it goes from here,
we cut to 5 years later, and this whole thing is basically the Robert Englund scene from Urban Legend, drawn out tenfold. This goes on and on and on and on. And I'm like looking at my watch. I'm like, how fucking long can this scene go on? Like, really? But it's the professor, Professor Kane, who is one of the premier masters of knowing about forensics and serial killers. So he's teaching this class on this campus, and he has this captive audience of students who we each get to know, and he's just chatting away with them about how they use modern techniques to solve old crimes. And he specifically mentions that he wrote a book about the Jack the Ripper case, and there's just endless chats. about serial killers, and you're getting introduced to these characters, but you don't know like which ones you're supposed to be paying attention to. They're just like randomly, I don't know. This just goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
This film has a huge pacing issue. It devotes way too much time to this developing like forensic element of the film, which is like, it's an important aspect. Like, don't get me wrong. But one of my biggest gripes with this movie is for a film that is entitled Ripper and puts so much motherfucking emphasis on like the forensic elements of like what made Jack the Ripper who he is, how he did what he did. Whoever's doing this, is mirroring the killer. That's the whole shit. Whoever's doing this, mirroring Jack the Ripper. This is a concept. This is an idea that as the movie goes on, becomes less and less important. And when you say this movie thinks it thinks it's a lot smarter than it actually is. I mean, one of my biggest issues is now looking at this in retrospect. Truthfully, the Jack the Ripper element is not at all impactful upon the storyline. You could have removed Jack the Ripper as the focal killer of choice, and you could have put in there, I don't know, Ted Bundy. I don't know, pick of the litter with that one. And it could have been, and you could have just handled that storyline as it is, and it would have been pretty much the exact same, just with the flashback sequences being slightly different. But really, truthfully, if you're going to give me these big, long, bloated classroom sequences, introducing these guys that look like a young Justin Timberlake, who I never meet again after this sequence, having this big moment, that's basically the equivalent of like the Pop Rocks and Coke shtick. Like, they basically recreate all of those urban legend moments beat for beat. But why? It's not that important.
Well, and then then we are introduced to who we find out is Molly, because the whole time this professor who, I'm assuming, again, he's renowned. He's, one of the experts in his field. And she is just sitting there scowling at him the entire time, like acting like she knows so much better than he does. And there's this whole moment where he's like questioning the class about, how are these men able to lure women to their demise? And, there's different characters that give different answers. The one dude, Eddie, is like, oh, they're horny. And then Molly's character goes on this like long tirade because the Professor Kane makes the comment about, basically what it boils down to is like, you never know who could be a killer, right? It's a whole cliche of like, you don't know who lives next door to you, truly, right? Everyone said, oh, Ted Bundy was a nice guy. Jeffrey Dahmer was a quiet neighbor. You don't know. So he's like, I could even be a killer. And then she goes on this whole spiel, 20-minute spiel about how he's not a killer, there's no way he could be a killer. And she's like, you just don't measure up, Professor. I'm like, you're a bit, like, why are you being a bitch? Like,
what motivated you just to come at this guy? Like, is he offended you? Did this man offend you?
But that's not even the worst thing that goes on between these two characters, because something comes out of left field later on that I was just like, what the fuck? I didn't remember this. But he basically, this whole thing is leading up to the pop rock punchline where the professor's like, well, you're wrong, Molly. What if I said I was going to kill one of you today? And he like goes and locks the door, and he's like strolling down the thing talking about which one is it going to be. And he stops in front of Eddie, and Eddie's like, oh, dude, you picked the wrong guy. I'm not a homo. Is that what he says? I'm not a homo. Like, all of a sudden the professor turns around and like slits this poor kid's throat, the blonde Justin Timberlake kid, blood squirting everywhere. The class freaks out, but lo and behold, dun, 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 it's just a joke. And the professor tells this blonde-haired kid to go back to drama class. I'm like, nobody recognized that this kid wasn't, like, this new kid is just sitting in their class. I don't know. But that's the whole punchline. And his whole thing is, you got to think outside the box. That's the mantra of the film. Think outside the box. And you got these French broads and that blonde Marianne. I mean, good Lord.
I've been waiting for you to bust Marianne out. Listen, we gotta pause. We gotta dissect a few things, because there's as slow as this film's moving, it's also throwing a lot at us. First of all, this whole shit with this professor pretending to kill this student wouldn't go over well in today's climate. I'll tell you that much. Maybe it would. I don't know. Maybe things are changing. But like, yeah, I mean, it seems like a really bold move for this guy to fake kill this kid who, again, you never see this kid again. He's gone. I'm convinced. I'll tell you what I think. There's a lot of heavy usage of stunt doubles in this more than any film I've ever seen on this scale. And I'm convinced that this guy is the stunt double. So they gave him this little role and they're like, we're going to keep you around. You're going to be the stunt double for 3 women and a man later in the movie.
Yeah, throw a wig on you.
Throw a wig on him. And he's this tiny little blonde man. You'd never notice. He could pull off as being a woman. But yeah, so you got this whole setup. You meet all these characters. There's a lot. And the thing is, like, Troy, here, let's talk about this cast. What the fuck is going on with this cast? First of all, this cast looks like it's trying to be every other cast we've ever seen in a slasher, but manages to create nothing like new, original, or unique at all. But there's some really big acting choices that we're about to get here. Some bold costume choices. Like, it's just a really weird group of people that are thrown together.
It definitely, in that respect, it reminds me of the film The Pool with their cast. It was the same thing where you just got, it's just a hodgepodge of different like accents and nationalities and everything just thrown into one. Like so it's really hard to determine like where this is supposed to take place in America, but it has that weird vibe to it because like the cast is, most of them aren't American. So I don't know. It's very odd. They're not, I would say some of the acting is not bad.
Some of it is like some of it is really
some
bad.
of it is. I was just gonna say. I mean, so let's break it down. You got basically you have your main core cast ends up being, because the very next scene is, let's move on from unless you have anything else to say about this whole stunt that this professor pulled. Yeah, that would not go over very well.
Get it out. Let's move on to the next. Move it along.
Because the next scene is where we really get the kids that we focus on. Because they are assigned to a study group. And so they're all like sitting around like, well, actually pause, because you get this whole like sexual harassment scene with Eddie and Molly, him like telling her that he wants to be a gynecologist, and it's like, and she grabs his balls and like squeezes up, and it's like, you picked the wrong girl. First of all, she's trying to act all sexy to him. And then she like grabs his nuts and squeezes him and like, you picked the wrong girl, right? Man, it's very odd. It just happens in the middle of the school hallway. Everyone's watching. She also has that encounter with Aaron Croker, who I don't know what's going on with this guy. But
there's a problem there.
There's
something going on.
There's something going on. And I guess if you're looking for a red herring right now, even though nobody's really gotten killed yet, there's your red herring. They make him very awkward and odd, and you're like, okay, this is interesting.
I'm just gonna say it. Here's my issue with the character of Aaron. Other than he exists solely to be a red herring. Aaron is, in my opinion, said with the utmost respect, a character who I am assuming is probably autistic or has some, he struggles with certain interactions, and so there are a lot of very stereotypical trademark characteristics of someone who would be autistic, and they're just amplified. They're really like, this movie is from 2001. Boy, does it feel like it. This character comes off a little offensive. And then like later on in the film, as it goes along and they kind of start to suspect him as a red herring, they're like, yes, he's very socially awkward. He has problems communicating with people. And they're basically just describing an autistic person. And thus he is, because of that, the red herring. Like, to me, this poor guy, though he is awkward because he is likely, again, autistic. And that is their motivation for suspecting him and him being involved at all. And it just seems very like, I don't know, maybe because I'm a woke individual or so they say nowadays. I just feel like it just feels very off. There's something off about the way his character's played. And there's something even more off about the way everyone, including the professor, talks about him.
Well, yeah, because even Molly and Jason have a conversation about him here in a few minutes when they get to this nightclub, which I have questions about. But yeah, so there's this whole encounter between Molly and Aaron, and then Molly and Eddie, who Eddie is supposed to be, I guess, the chauvinistic jerk of the bunch. But then we move on and we get to this study group. It's like this random mansion, and they've all been put into the study group. So let's talk about this, because we have the character of Chantel. What do you think about her, Roger?
Oh my God. Listen, I can't handle this broad. That fucking broad is so, and listen, I love an accent. I've heard plenty of beautiful French accents that translate well when giving monologues, when giving speeches, when delivering English dialogue. I don't think it's because this girl has an accent. I just don't think this girl is very good at delivering this dialogue. Like, I kept trying to blame it on the accent, but she is very wooden.
She mumbles a lot of her lines, and there's not a lot of inflection to what she's saying. And I guess she's painted as like the bitch, but I mean, I don't know. So we got Eddie. Eddie's there, and we got Jason. We haven't really mentioned Jason. Jason, I guess, Jason is about as close to, I guess, the male lead. I don't know. I mean, he seems like he's the most charming of the group, the most likable, and he definitely he's smitten with Molly, as we learn. You got fucking Marianne.
Pause.
Yes. I know you have. That's why I was giving you a moment, because I know you have a lot to say about her.
First of all, I say Jason. I think he's hot-headed, but he's got a face I want to see in a gay porn. He's a beautiful guy. He looks like I feel like I've seen 30 guys that look just like him sucking dicks in gay porns. No offense to the actor playing him. He just looks straight out of a late 90s, early 2000s gay porn, and I'm here for it. It's hot.
Yeah, he would definitely be a Sean Cody model in the mid-2000s.
My God, Corbin Fisher,
for sure.
Yeah, sign me up. Sign me up for that one. And bring him back for another round. But Marianne. Okay, there's always a character in a film like this that it suffers as like the one that gets the least development. But like in a film that's riddled with underdeveloped characters, the level. The lack of attention that the character of Marianne receives in this film is, I think, it should be offensive to the actress. Unless she was so bad, maybe they cut her down. Maybe she had a few other scenes with her southern drawl, because she's got an accent. Everyone's got an accent in this movie, by the way. She's got a southern drawl. I know nothing about her. She's got maybe 4 lines in the whole movie, but she's there. I swear to God, this girl's a Mormon. Like, tell me this girl's not a Mormon. She's definitely a Mormon.
There's, again, she's played a very specific way. I don't know if it was like the director directing her to play this character in this manner, but like, she's not unlikable. And in fact, every line she delivers, she is super excited about. Like, I mean, she is just thrilled about anything. I get to go and visit my mom this weekend. I know that serial killers, they target women because they want to. I mean, everything she says, it's super excited sounding, almost to the point that she almost comes off as childish. Like, right? I mean, there's just something odd about the character, and you're right. We don't get much with her at all, and we get even less from what the fuck's that other broad, Andy. She works at the morgue. That's all I know about her. She works at the morgue.
Well, and here's my issue with this nonsense with her is like, first of all, she's got maybe, again, 4 lines in the whole film. There's that one moment where she comes stomping up, really angry, really pissed off. And there's this like, you think there's going to be this whole character development, and then it's just like completely dismissed and it's never addressed again. This film loves to like approach, like it'll bring up like lines of dialogue or things that you think are going to become greater ideas over the course of the movie. And then they're just kind of thrown to the wind. So I don't know. This movie makes so many fucking weird choices. And one of the weird choices is the music montages. Like, there's also several music montages.
Oh my
And one
God.
of them's coming up when she goes back to her room here coming up. You know, this whole sequence of her coming back and you see her murals. She's living in a drug den. Like, I'm convinced that this character of Molly is living in an abandoned warehouse.
We have not even discussed her hair yet, Roger. What is up with that stringy hair? I mean, I guess she's trying to be goth, but like the hair, like when we first are introduced to her, it's like clumped together, like she doesn't wash it. And I'm like, honey, you need some pert or something in that. What's Pantene that mess. And then you see where she lives, and it makes sense that she's not washing her goddamn hair. But that hair, what is up with it?
Listen, this look, I don't know what Hot Topic employee got hired on to style this film, but, you know, in the world of Final Girls, and it pains me so much to say this, Molly is, for so many reasons, the worst. First, her name does not go with who she is. So, like her name is Molly. Her name should be like Danica, or I don't know, Jordana. Like, she seems like she's dark, she's angsty. I mean, she's not dark in complexion, but she's like, you know, she's wearing like dark gothic clothing, and she's got this weird fucking hair that she's got. She's wearing those metal ball necklaces. She's angry. And her name's Molly. And it just seems so like it clashes. It doesn't match at all who she is. She's a total fucking bitch. We've gone over this multiple times. And it continues to be a through character like that. That's the only thing she has to offer. And her wardrobe is all over the place. Like, she does not give off Final Girl vibes to me at all. But here we are.
Yeah. Again, I said it at the beginning. It's a really, really, really hard to like this girl and be like, oh, this is a character that I want to survive. This is our final girl. Yay. Because she, like in this scene, when she shows up to the study group, she's all bitchy. She's smoking. She tells them like, I ain't working with any of you. She's like, I work by myself. You can use some of my work, but I ain't working with any of you. And they were just like, I would have told her to fuck off. I would have been like, bitch, bye. We don't need you here. But they're like, I think Eddie does try to confront her. And it's like, if you're in, then I'm out. And she's like, oh, calm down. You'll be fine. And like, everyone's just fine with her being a bitch. And in fact, you know, they go to this like club that night. And I'm really confused about like, okay, so the group goes to this industrial rave, this rave party going on. She goes home. She gets a cab, and the cab drops her off at her warehouse, wherever she's living. And yeah, it's literally like it's like a room in a warehouse. There's like a mattress on the floor and some paintings. This is where she lives. And like, we get this whole like early 2000s, like alt rock montage of her working on her murals, her laying in bed reading the professor's book that he wrote. And then it transitions to this rave that somehow she decided she's going to go to, even though she like hates everybody and doesn't want to be around them, but she goes to this rave.
It makes no sense why she would go.
I didn't understand that. Like, I don't think she would have went there. Like,
they didn't invite her. They didn't like try to get her like looped in with the group. Like, she was like very cruel to them, and it just like, I don't know. It does not reflect at all like what I would think her character would be looking for out of the situation based off how she just responded. We have to acknowledge that, first of all, we've gotten some great lines of dialogue. A couple lines that we've had here are, at one point, Eddie refers to Molly as rat girl. And then she counters him, or no, actually, I think it's Jason. She turns to the one guy and she says, "You're just jerking off." Like, implying like they're wasting their time. And I'm like, the delivery of these lines is just phenomenal. And then as she's going back to that fucking warehouse, I want to point this out. There's that moment where you spot that gentleman. He comes into play. That guy who comes up wearing the trench coat watching her. And there's this guy watching her. And he's got this horrible wig. There's a lot of just bad, fashion choices in general with everybody. But this guy, it's got to be a wig. There's no way this is this guy's hair. And it's what ends up being this detective. And he ends up being a major character throughout the film as well. Tell me, Troy, if this film were to be revisited today, tell me that you cannot see the character of the detective played by Tilda Swinton.
Oh, absolutely.
Same exact wardrobe.
No, she looks great in that. Yeah, I mean, I'm here for it. Rip her from. They did. Let's get Tilda. Tilda, come on, here's your next
Strong
role.
Tilda vibes from this guy, Tilda Swinton.
But so she goes to this rave. Everyone's there, including Aaron Croker, because Jason recognizes Molly, and he does actually say to her, "God, you're the last person I would expect to see here." And she says, "Well, I wouldn't miss this for the world." I'm like, "What? Miss what? Like, you don't seem like you don't dance, you don't drink. Like, what do you think you're gonna miss?" And then they see Aaron and they have a conversation about him. Jason's like, "Oh, there's Aaron Croker. He's weird, isn't he?" And she's like, "No, he's more than weird. He's invisible. The Chinese call someone like him hungry ghost because he's always out looking for like attention." In the meantime, Marissa. We didn't even mention Marissa, Rod. How did we forget about Marissa? Because Marissa is the one in that opening scene in the classroom is being a total whore, like spreading her legs to open and we forgot, but she is like banging some guy in the bathroom.
Well, listen, she's not just banging some guy in the bathroom. There's a whole lot going on here. Marissa's played, first of all, by Kelly Brook, who is beautiful, lovely model, British accent. We've seen her in films such as Piranha. She's one of the models in Piranha. She's always welcome here on Dark Knight the Podcast. She's my favorite character because she is aggressively whorish right off the get-go. She's a whore to everybody. That's the only defining trait she has. But she's a likable whore. Like, she's fun. Like, you're going to have a good time with her. You just know this girl's going to end up getting pregnant at some point, and you'll probably have to go through the abortion process with her multiple times over if you're her friend. It just comes with the territory. But she's fun, but this, you're talking about this sequence here, correct me if I'm wrong, where she's just in the bath. I think she's doing coke. I think she goes in there, I don't know, she's just wiping her face off, and she turns, and first person's perspective, this figure just comes in and fucking starts fucking this woman. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. This
it keeps intercutting with like people having a normal conversation, and then you see her getting railed up against the stall.
Troy!
And she's loud. She's like, oh, and everyone can hear it. And I mean, this is something I would expect at like a gay bar.
Listen, well, first, okay, I gotta take 2 steps back. This scene here is my favorite scene in the movie. It's the one I have the most memories of.
Her getting railed, or what ends up happening?
The all-encompassing scene, including her getting railed, because I'm always here for a good time. But so the scene, like, you get this cool transition where you go up the side of the building, and then you're in this rave, and people are in costumes. Marianne's dressed like a cheerleader because she's a fucking loser. Everybody else is in goth clothes, but everyone looks sexy. Jason's dressed like David Boreanaz because that's all he has for this movie. But there's a vibe. Like, it's a costume party. It's well handled. There's some really good fluid movements of the camera kind of sweeping from the different levels. I like this sequence and what they're doing with it. It almost, at certain points, because of how they film it, it gives me a hint of Giallo. I almost feel like someone was watching some of the Giallo classics, especially as we start to get to the chase scene coming up. But right now, poor Marissa. Poor Marissa. Can't even get it out. Poor Marissa is just minding her business in the bathroom. And they really, they set it up in a way that you think it's Aaron coming in and fucking her. And I'm like, this socially uncomfortable man is just swooping in here. He walks in unannounced and he just starts fucking this girl. And the lady does not protest. The lady, she's up against the wall, and it's like, it's so abrupt because, like, yeah, you're going back and forth between this conversation, and like he swoops in and all of a sudden he's just railing her. And I'm like, God, was it that easy in 2001? I guess it must have been that easy to just walk in. And nowadays, like, you would be in trouble for doing that. But this girl,
you can't just rail anybody in the bathroom anymore. I mean,
this girl seems fine with it though. Like, she doesn't really do anything.
But here's the thing: is like there is a huge question about who is the guy is that's fucking her. Is it? It ends up, I think it's heavily implied later on in the film that it's fucking Professor, right?
Or she fucked the professor separately, and it was, and also got railed by that poor simple
Aaron.
What's his name?
There's
Aaron.
But there's a bunch of guys that are wearing those white masks, and you do see like, is it Aaron that pulls it down, and like when he sees Marissa, he darts towards her direction, but then we don't really know like if it's him or not, because then later in the film we find out that the professor was at this party as well and was wearing the same costume. I'm like,
it was definitely the professor.
So the professor's railing this 18-year-old. Okay, that makes sense. That tracks for later in the film.
It does.
But this is just this scene. I'm like, wow. And he just comes up behind her, shoves it in, goes to town.
And he goes, man.
And she is, everyone hears her, Roger. That's the thing, is everyone can hear her. People are just trying to mind their own business. And she's, or even her two friends, Chantel and Andy, hear her. And what ends up happening is like, they don't realize that she's still in the stall. And they're like, oh, did you see Marissa? That she's a slut. Like she's all up on that guy on the dance floor. Well, Marissa hears this after she's been cummed in, and she comes out and she's all sad, and she's like, has to pretend like she didn't hear anything, and now she just wants to go home. I'm like, honey, you can't be mad that these girls are calling you a slut when you just got railed in a bathroom stall. Like, why are you mad? Own it, girl. You were spreading your legs open in the opening scene for the whole class to see. And now, why are you all of a sudden you're going to be upset about this?
Everything this girl does, everything she does in this film is sexual. So for her to get fucked in a bar, like, I mean, honestly, like, I hate to say it, but like, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I can't believe Marissa just got fucked in the bar. I'd be like, God damn it, Marissa just got fucked in a bar again, you know? So I don't understand why people are even fazed by it. We are not exaggerating when we say how long this fucking is, by the way. Like, it is, the music drops out. It's just her heavy orgasms. Shots of her looking from underneath her arm, looking back as this guy in this cape, this masked man who she has no idea who he is, just enters her over and over.
Yeah, she has no idea who this is.
No idea.
Like the guy is like, we have to put that out there. The guy is masked. He never takes off his mask. He just goes up behind her, shoves it in, and that's it. And she's loving it. But I do love, like, you're right. I love what transpires from this point forward. Is probably, I mean, I think it's actually, to be honest with you, I think it's actually brilliant. Like how this whole scene plays out. I think it's really masterfully done. And it is the one scene from the film that I remember because it is so elaborate. It gives you, I'm glad you mentioned Giallo, because it definitely gives you Giallo vibes. But then on top of that, let's couple that with a specific Giallo, because it almost ends in a Suspiria opening scene type of way, right? And I think it's really well done, and I just wish that the film would have kept the energy that it has for this specific character and her demise, because for a early 2000s low budget slasher direct to video, I mean, I think this whole scene is just stellar.
It truly is like the standout moment of the film, and it is quite a great sequence. Like, it's the only scene I would say in the film that makes it out unscathed, you know, from the moment she gets in the elevator and goes upstairs. You have this moment where you have Aaron. I have such a gripe with, because they play Aaron so simple. Like, there's this way, there's this moment here as she's going up the elevator. You see Aaron like looking back nervously, like, oh gosh, what just happened? Like, and it's like, it just, it doesn't feel at all natural. Like, a character like this wouldn't even be in this environment to begin with. I don't know. It feels like a caricature, and I have a huge gripe with that character of Aaron. But then as soon as she gets up to this next floor, she takes this freight elevator up, and you get to this like kind of abandoned area of this factory where this rave is being held. And she's trying to go back down, but someone's obviously set it so that the elevator is now set up to the top floor. So she's not able to get it to operate. And so she's forced to enter this next floor, this top floor, which is very dramatic. It's the best set piece in the film. It's filled with plastic tarps and unfinished walls, and it just looks like completely dilapidated. And you just get this amazing cinematography as she's starting to creep through this environment. And pair it with like her, she's another character with an accent. She's British. And she's probably the most natural sounding individual in the movie. It just works here. This whole sequence works for me.
I just kept thinking of Charlie XCX when I heard her talk. She sounds exactly like Charlie XCX. I wanted her to just start breaking out into, I want you to guess the color of my underwear. I want to see, what's this fucking song? You want to see what I got going on down there.
Oh, God.
I mean, it would be perfect for her, right? Guess the color of my I would have loved, because she sounds fucking like Charlie XCX, literally. But yeah, no, and then it's a beautiful set, and it gives me vibes of like the best scene from one of the shittiest movies ever made. But we acknowledge that the scene is really great in this film. We covered it. It is the Prom Night remake, with the character going up to the top floor and having this very similar thing where she's just overwhelmed by like the plastic tarps hanging down, and just the construction that's going on. Gave me vibes of that. But how this transpires, I mean, yeah, you start to see like the gloved hand, like, coming up behind her and grabbing things, and she hears it and she freaks out and she knows somebody's there. And she's like, who's there? Who's there? And she grabs a pipe, and like, it's all very suspenseful. It's drawn out. And then finally, like, she is attacked, and like, she's stabbed and she falls onto the floor, and somehow, this could have just ended here. Like, she just could have been stabbed and that's that. But they really take the extra step to do something really elaborate that you don't see a lot in slasher films. And it's make a death really fucking epic. I don't know how realistic what happens is, because I couldn't figure out like what is, I guess because it's construction, there's like this crane thing that's like hanging over the ledge, and her leg gets caught in the chain, and she literally is flung out the window, and she's hanging like by her foot with the chain around it. 50 stories up, just dangling there, screaming. And the killer like lets her dangle there for a bit before he like reels her in. And as he's reeling her in, he gets her onto the ground and he starts stabbing the shit out of her. And if you didn't think that her hanging over, hanging outside a 50-story building by her ankle was cool enough, what happens here, he is stabbing the shit out of her. I guess there's a hole in the floor that looks down onto the rave itself, and there's that girl that's dancing on the dance floor by herself. She has that short pixie blonde wig on, and she is wearing a little like white costume, like white cheerleader's costume, and she's just dancing up a storm. And the blood from Marissa being stabbed starts to fall onto her, and she doesn't realize it at first, but everyone else can see it. And I mean, before you know it, think of like the prom scene in Carrie. This girl is just like drenched in blood before she realizes it. And then as she's realizing it, we get that final boom where Marissa's body comes hanging from that chain, just crashing through the window, Suspiria style. I mean, they did not have to go this hard for a little indie slasher film, but this is definitely a standout death scene from that era, period.
Oh, it's the reason that, like, I think one of the reasons this film is celebrated at all is because this makes such a big impact. It's technically the first proper kill of the film. Like, the opening flashback sequence, you get some great visuals, but overall, it's very it's very choppy. Like, it's you're only getting bits and pieces for a reason. Like, it's a memory. You're getting glimpses of what happened. It's not clear. With this, like, this is an example of this film when they really take their time. They construct something really, really impressive, and it's beautiful. It's really well shot. Like, we keep saying giallo, but you get these beautiful, like, up close shots of her eyes looking around as she's reaching through these different, like, slats of wood, and you get the leather gloves of the killer. One thing I don't love about this film is, like, the killer doesn't really have any aesthetic at all. Like, at first you see this white ghost mask, and you think, like, that's the costume, and I'm happy it's not. Because overall, it's, you see that so many times before. But instead, they just opt to go with like a mysterious pair of black hands, like gloved hands. And that's all you really get. And I think that this film could use maybe a little bit more. But for this sequence, you really get the best balance of everything. Great drawn out pursuit. She gets stabbed in the back. She's running from the killer. He's busting out bulbs. He's chasing after her. You know, she's got a metal pipe. Eventually, she gets knocked down on the floor. She's trying to scream through the ceiling in this hole in the floor, trying to get their attention. And then the killer gets on top of her and he stabs her violently and launches her off on this metal chain, which is it's the crane that they would use to lift things up to that floor. So it makes sense why it's there. This whole bit through the window where she's screaming for help as the dancers, like, they see her and they're like, oh, that's cool. Because they think she's part of the shtick, she's dressed up, she's in a costume. And then this whole bit of her body coming crashing through after this girl is covered in blood. I mean, there's so many levels to this kill. It is not a one-dimensional kill, which I think is part of the reason that, like, everything that follows after this, I'm almost a little resentful. I see what they are capable of doing in this moment, and I feel like it is the only sequence in this film that gets that level of attention. Everything else that follows, all of the other horror moments, all the other fearful chase sequences, whatever it may be, aside from maybe the one moment with Chantal, all of the other moments get nowhere near the quality and attention and focus that this scene got. And it shows, and it's a bummer because this scene truly it's masterful. It's so well executed.
Yeah, and it really sets your expectations high, and unfortunately, it never reaches this height again. I mean, I guess the next death with Marianne, it gets a little bit elaborate in its own right, but then it kind of fizzles out, and we'll get there here real quick. But yeah, this death scene, guys, is really, really, I think, one of the best from the era, like I mentioned. But yeah, like the next day, the group is like told that, well, they're there, so they see her body come crashing through, and so like the next day they're sitting around basically talking about how they can use this to their advantage. And why don't they, because they are studying, keep in mind, they're just in a class that literally just started the day before, but these kids think that they're going to be able to like put their heads together and solve this mystery Scooby-Doo style. Who's the killer? Molly's like, yeah, that's dumb because this is a real murder. Like, guys, this really, really happened. She actually then as she's leaving, she runs into the figure that she has seen a couple times. We saw him outside her apartment, and then she actually saw him another time when she was at the study group. Remember, she opens the curtain and he's standing out there. This is Detective Kelso. And if you want to say that poor Aaron Croker is a red herring, this man could not act more sinister and do the weirdest things that I'm like, why is a cop doing this? But he is like very just, I mean, from the get-go, he's very like sinister towards her. She doesn't recognize him at first, so he has to remind her that I'm the one that found you 5 years ago. I worked your case, and I really think that it's the same killer. And she's like, no, it can't be. And that night, she goes back to the rave. I would think that would be closed off, that this would be a crime scene. There's no like crime tape. There's nothing. She just like walks right in, and like there's still blood on the wall. There's still blood everywhere. I'm like, what kind of police department is this? Like, this is just okay. A girl's brutally murdered, and we don't care.
The character of Kelso is so ominous. It's so heavy-handed that it's hard to take the character seriously. Like, every trait about this guy screams red herring in a manner that almost feels like a caricature. He's got a goddamn black rubber leather glove on at all times. At one point, he's holding an apple for no reason. He starts cutting into this apple wearing this black leather glove, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what? Just cutting pieces of an apple off.
But it's not. But he was a giant butcher knife. It's not like he has like a little pocket knife. He literally has a giant like 12-inch butcher knife from a butcher's. He's there. Like she's again, crime scene compromised. Like nothing is. There's blood everywhere. There's writing on the wall. He shows up behind her. Well, we see a knife, like this giant fucking butcher knife, and then she turns around real quick, and yeah, it's just him pretending like he's cutting an apple. I'm like, this is like the most inappropriate place to be cutting an apple. And he's like, oh, this is the exact same knife, type of knife that slaughtered Marissa Tavares.
Dude, I think you got to have a little bit of a decorum, I suppose would be the right term here. When you're handling a situation like this, a case like this with a girl who's already been through a whole fucking series of murders. This girl, you don't be bringing her. I'm assuming he must have brought her back to this location to be like, look, I'm thinking it's the same guy. Because here's the thing. Kelso's like, I'm thinking it's the same guy. He thinks that whoever killed all of Molly's friends is now looking for her. Because that guy technically was never caught. Which is fine. Okay. Plot point. So I'm guessing that's how he got her up there. But certainly don't be walking up behind this woman with a goddamn butcher knife when this woman is looking at a wall covered in blood, and this woman's a survivor, like she is, like this girl's been through. That seems really inappropriate. And you're a detective, Tilda Swinton, and I'm sorry, but you just got to get your shit together. And of course, this guy's got an accent. Everybody in this fucking movie has an accent, and Kelso's no different. But there's something off about Kelso. He almost comes off kind of like, I would not be surprised if he was molesting people. Like he comes off as a sexual predator.
I don't buy him as a police officer.
Not at all.
He's throughout the whole film, he's doing inappropriate things and just like, and he's like, he starts to like tell her, oh, she was killed really slowly. Like he killed her really slowly. He wanted her to feel it. And he was like, Molly, I know that your parents were alcoholics and left you, and you're trying to cope, but I think that this killer is still out there and he's going to be after you. I'm like, she storms off. Like I would too. I'd be like, fuck you, creep. And then she goes back to her apartment, her depressing apartment, for another early 2000s alternative rock montage of her packing her bag like she's going to get out of town.
This movie contains so many songs that sound like songs that I think I know. Like, it's never the song I think it is, but it's always like, but like kind of sounds like that, but it sounds like Creed all the time, but it's never actually Creed. This soundtrack, and they let you bask in it. You get so many full songs. You get so many montages of her just living, running. You get a montage of her running. You get a montage of her destroying a house at one point. Destroying this beautiful apartment, which it literally looks like a drug den. I don't understand where they're going with this character of Kelso. And I can understand wanting to make this character a red herring, but it certainly does the story no benefit. Like, where does that go? Other than this guy just being a creep. He's just a creep. No reason, no explanation. He's just creepy. Nothing comes from it at all. It just seems like there's no intentionality behind any of these characters. I've used the term caricature several times here. And the problem is really, for the most part, almost every character here feels like a caricature. Nobody here feels fleshed out, lived in, real, which is one of the, I would say, the hardest pills to swallow. Like, even Molly. Molly doesn't seem like she's angsty from trauma. Molly seems like she's angsty because it fit the early 2000s aesthetic of what they wanted. They wanted a girl that would wear Hot Topic clothing and look like she's out of a, I don't know, background from a damn Avril Lavigne music video. Okay, let's do it. But they're like, it just doesn't seem like it's motivated. I don't understand why. It doesn't seem like it makes sense for the character to go there. So, and that's all of them across the board.
Well, at least they let her be way more charming and down to earth in Final Destination 2.
Significantly more charming.
I mean, again, the thing is, she's not bad in this role at all. It's just the character is such a hard pill to swallow. So the next day, we get Marianne cruising down the highway, because remember, Marianne said earlier that she could not help the group track down the killer because her mother wanted her to come home because her mother was worried. So she's driving down the highway, listening to some tunes when this ominous truck comes up behind her and literally like starts to bash into her and ends up like running her off the road. And again, the setup to this, Roger, is very elaborate. Like, I'm like, holy hell. Like, I keep saying it, but like for a little indie low budget slasher movie to go this hard with a death scene and make it like this elaborate. However, it fizzles out big time and I have a lot of questions, but ultimately like this killer like runs her off the road. Her car stops right next to like this beautiful seaside cliff overlooking the ocean. And, you know, she's fucking, instead of like getting out of the car right away and running, like she sits in the car and before she knows it, the truck comes up behind her and rams her car off of the cliff. And we get that Justin Timberlake from the beginning in a wig fall out of the windshield. I mean, this is like the least convincing.
I'm convinced it's him.
But I'm going to say, but flies out of the windshield and like is hanging on the front of a car 100 feet above the sea. So, I mean, this is elaborate. She's screaming her fucking head off. The killer's up there like mocking her. And then she like lets go and you think she fell to her death. And it does this really cool thing where the camera like goes back up to the top and we see the killer looking down and we see that she did not fall all the way down. Like she's hanging onto the side of the cliff. It's beautiful and it's elaborate and it's like, wow. I would love to be able to do something like this, but then it cuts away and apparently we don't really, we see her like, how did the killer get her off of that fucking cliff to a fucking cabin? Especially if it's insinuated, because the ending of this fucking movie, let me tell you, gonna leave you with some questions. But if it's like if I'm interpreting the ending the way I want to, like this makes zero fucking sense. How this killer got this girl fit up the fucking side of a mountain, and what the fuck? I don't understand. I get the fact that they had to get her into this cabin so that the killer could stab her the same way the second victim of Jack the Ripper was. But now after this, they have fucking abandoned that Jack the Ripper bullshit because I guarantee you Jack the Ripper wasn't using circular saws to kill people. I mean, so that's the whole Jack the Ripper thing goes out the window. This makes zero sense.
Marianne, you never stood a chance. But the way this progresses, it is questionable because yes, you're right. It starts with this big elaborate chase scene. First of all, you get her like a fucking lunatic. She's bopping to this music, snapping her fingers. Like, I'm like, who is directing this woman to act this way? Like, bigger, snap more. And then all of a sudden she gets chased by the Jeepers Creepers truck. So, like, I mean, clearly, like, and I'm pretty sure Jeepers Creepers came out right around this time. So I don't know if they're stealing ideas, but they got this big chase scene. It's very Jeepers Creepers. And you see it and you're like, oh God, this film's going to do a chase scene. But then, like, it actually pulls off a pretty intense chase scene. Like, it's well done. And then you're right. She gets shoved up against the side of a beautiful seaside cliff. And it looks like they're by Carmel by the Sea. And she's, daytime, she's over the edge of this cliff. She's screaming. She's not really doing anything. The truck disappears. And then it comes back. It shoves her out the window. She's hanging off the cliff. They knock her off. Justin Timberlake looking extras hanging at the edge of the cliff. Then they knock her even further, like they trick you. And then for them to take it to a cabin is a bold choice. Because I'm sorry, if you're going to make that kind of a bold transition in a venue of choice, you've got to set it up. You can't just be like, I'm going to dissolve. I'm going to do a nice dissolve here and we'll be fine with it. No, I need you to show me, as the person viewing this film, I need you to show me that killer throwing the rope down to her denying it, then her out of desperation grabbing onto it, her being hoisted all the way up, and then her being hog-tied and taken to that cabin. Because that's the only way, unless this killer has the ability to airlift her. Like, I'm sorry, there's no way from either angle, either you come from above or below. If she fell any further, she would have died. So I need to know. I need to know how the killer got her into this random, isolated, unnamed cabin that apparently they just have access to.
Then it seems like it's miles away from the cliff too, because I think the cabin is, I don't know. But yeah, the killer gets her in this cabin where killer proceeds to like mutilate or stab her to death. And this, again, it's an interesting setup because like these first two kills, we have to acknowledge the thing that makes them like intriguing to Kane and to Kelso is the fact that they're catching on that the killer is like killing these women the exact same way that Jack the Ripper killed his first two victims, right? Like the exact same amount of stab wounds. It's mentioned that, Marianne is like gutted and has, it's everything is falling into place, which it should for a film called Ripper Letters from Hell. But again, then it's abandoned. Like we don't spend much more time with the Jack the Ripper element as these characters kind of move on throughout the film. But I have a lot of questions about how this transpired. Like, how did this killer get this girl up off the cliff into a cabin? Especially like, I don't know what your end interpretation of the film is in terms of who the killer is, but if it's heavily insinuated it's a specific character, there's literally no way that character would have gotten this girl up a mountain and to a cabin.
That character wouldn't have access to a pickup truck.
Well, apparently they do.
Troy. My biggest gripe here that I need to acknowledge, beyond the absurdity of getting Marianne all the way up that fucking cliff and into that cabin, which I would pay to watch her get tied up and thrown in a vehicle, her screaming the whole way there. Like, let me see that. We don't see any of it. It's all done via voiceover, the torturing that leads up to what is the inevitable murder. And then you've got this moment with Kelso walking into the cabin where you see the flashes going off as though the body's been discovered. And there is this sequence of him, like where you see his face, and then every few frames, it's a flash. It's a frame or two of her body being discovered. And so I purposely paused on these shots because I was like, I need to know how this girl died. And Troy, I tell you, these visuals of her body being discovered are nothing more than this actress. I'm convinced it's not the actress. I'm convinced it's another woman in the same costume with I'm saying blood on her face that looks like they got it from like a Halloween, like a Halloween USA or whatever the fucking the store is. Yeah. It looks like it is the lamest body reveal. No wonder they're only showing a couple frames of it. But I feel like that they set themselves up for these massive sequences. And I feel like they almost had to run out of time, or there had to be an issue. There had to be something that happened in the midst of filming the sequence. Because honestly, everything after you get to the cabin moving forward for the rest of this bit of Marianne feels like they are putting a bandage on a bullet hole with this scene. There is something missing here. There is something that I think we were supposed to get that we didn't, or else it's just a major, major error on the editor's behalf. Because you said, if get a real editor into this film, cut some of this shit out. Also know when to let moments breathe. For the focus of this slasher to be the kills, and for you to just show this girl get chucked over the side of a mountain, you better be giving me a payoff. And there's nothing. I couldn't tell you how the girl died. I know none of it because you don't see the death at all.
No, though, I mean, and that's the thing. The buildup is tremendous, and then you're just left with what we get, and it leaves you with way more questions than it does answers. Yeah, so Kelso gathers the students at the college the next day to tell them the bad news that Marianne was murdered. And he basically is like, you know what? The killer is going to be someone known to you guys. And Professor Kane is like discouraging the students from investigating the case. He's like, you guys should not be doing this. And Jason challenges them and is like, basically Jason all of a sudden turns into an, because he's like, Professor, you're washed up. You quit the FBI, you left the FBI and you're washed up. What are you afraid of? And so Kane comes back with this story about like, you know what, dude, you might sit there and think that you know anything about criminal justice, but until you have to encounter people who have raped and murdered children and how that eats away at you, you need to like shut your fucking mouth, basically. You don't know what you're talking about. So then he challenges Jason to profile the killer. Like, who do you think the killer is? Like, is he like the Hillside Strangler, Green River Killer? Let me know. And then Molly mentions Jack the Ripper. And we get this whole how Molly knows like all about how these bodies were mutilated, but she has pictures and diagrams about how Marissa and Marianne were killed the exact same way the first two Jack the Ripper victims were killed. Good for her, because she knows a lot about the murders.
But here's my issue. And I mean, they sure love giving people a big old monologue in this movie. The fucking professor gets a monologue, Molly gets a monologue, everyone's talking about forensics. And so she gives this explanation about why it's gotta be the Ripper. It's the Ripper, and she knows it. And then, like, the professor is like, yeah, but like, kind of, but also not. There's like some aspects that don't match. And she's like, no, but like, it also is the Ripper. And then they give her that standing ovation. And like, and it's like, stupid. Girl, like, I'm not sold. Like, your reasoning here with this big old speech that you're given just isn't enough for me to be like, I think she knows what she's talking about. She speaks with conviction and she's a fucking bitch about it. So I guess like, you're like, God, if you're gonna be such a bitch about it, fine. Like, you know about the Ripper, but like, I don't know. Like, and it's like you said, it all goes out the window anyways, because after a while, it's not even a key factor anymore.
I mean, again, we're talking, this scene drags on and on and on. And I'm like trying to tune in because I think it's important, but it's really not. I mean, she's just trying to make a case for the fact that the person who, originally thought was Jack the Ripper. It could have been someone else. It could have been Mary Kelly's boyfriend because he worked at a steel yard or blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, she ends it with, we should really be looking at, for this killer and looking at the clues he's leaving. Isn't it you that said we should think outside the box? And yeah, the classmates start like clapping for her. I'm like, why? Like that was pretty, nothing clap worthy on my end for you. So after the meeting, the group of kids gathers again, and friend Chantel decides she doesn't want to investigate the killings anymore. And Eddie, can't forget about him. He's quick. He's like, yeah, we should just back out. This is getting too close. But Jason, he rallies the troop, Roger. He has that inspirational speech about how the two victims, they were in our study group, and we can't not think that these killings are just random. We need to work for our friends that were murdered. Now let's get to it. And everyone's like, yeah, we're going to try to hunt a serial killer now, even though we've been in a serial killer class for 3 days and we're 19-year-olds. But yeah, we're ready to hunt a serial killer. Let's go.
This is the bit also where Andrea comes like stomping up to her and she's like, you stole my idea, but hey, you deserved it.
Was it ever established that was Andrea's idea? She's only had one piece of dialogue throughout the film.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I think they're like, we have to give her something, but like we can resolve it really quickly. So they give her this big moment when she comes stomping up. I do want to also acknowledge, we gave Kelly Brook a moment, but Andrea is played by none other than Emmanuelle Vaugier, who I can't say her last name either, just like I couldn't say Coraline Forgeot either, and I still can't do it. But this gal, this one, she's in Ripper, but she's also in goddamn Saw 2. Mm-hmm. She's Addison in Saw 2. There's a couple of scream queens in this. I want to give this movie a little bit of credit. Because you also, you got AJ Cook, you got her, you got that goddamn Kelly Brook. And then Kelly Brook was also in the fucking House of Nine. Have you ever seen that movie, House of Nine? We're covering it soon. And then if you want to listen, I don't know how obscure you want to get, but I'm going to tell you, if we're talking about Scream Queens, we got the best of them here. We also have Daniela Evangelista, who is played Marianne, my favorite character, but she has a pretty sizable supporting role in, and I don't know if you remember this fucking movie, Cabin by the Lake.
Cabin by the Lake.
Have you ever seen Cabin by the Lake? It is a made-for-TV horror film.
Who's in it? Is it maybe I'm thinking of the people across the lake?
Oh my God, No. Cabin by the Lake. This is actually one of the more celebrated made-for-TV horror films.
Okay.
Judd Nelson.
I was gonna say
is the
Judd
lead in
Nelson.
it.
Yes,
Judd
Nelson. I have
Nelson.
seen it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's we're covering it. I literally, it's going to be one of my next films because we can't do this one and not give Marianne a second spotlight in Cabin by the Lake, since she is one of my favorites in this film, Daniela Evangelista. So yeah, I just wanted to give a moment to acknowledge these girls because they're working overtime in a film that doesn't do them a lot of thanks.
No, but you know what? Hey, I look at you doing your homework. So this film definitely has a lot of connections to other horror films, which I like to see. But now the troops are rallied. They're all excited to hunt the serial killer. And in fact, Jason and Molly, Roger, go back to her place where she has add this to one of her skills because she can hack into the FBI database.
You've been hiding this whole time, Rod? You've been hiding your abilities for hacking into the police station database? That seems bold.
But they find out that Kane, his last case before leaving the FBI was in Detroit, where 10 young boys were sexually assaulted and mutilated and tortured, and that Kane was held hostage by the killer for 5 days. After that, Kane was released and he quit the FBI. But yeah, Molly is like, Jason's like, how do you have this information? She's like, oh, I just hacked into the police database and everything that they get now comes to my computer. I'm like, that seems like a skill that is hard to come by. Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that Molly could hack into the FBI database? Oh, and then you get this moment where they almost kiss, too.
And the relationships in this film are all fucking over the place. Everyone's wanting to fuck everybody, but no one's doing really anything about it until they do, and then people get pissed. This ability to hack really seems like it should have been established earlier, because even like I'm shocked that Jason's not like, what the fuck? Like, well, you could do this, but I always say, like, if you don't have a means to actually like properly explain something, just explain it casually, and like people will just go along with it. So, like, maybe that's the best way to handle something like the ability to hack into a police station database.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it was a very odd. Comes out of nowhere. You get this moment where Kelso corners Kane. Well, it doesn't really corner him, but like gets in his car. Like it's pouring rain, and basically he's grilling Kane about, why didn't you help us? We reached out to you when those killings happened 5 years ago. And one of the victims, wasn't that like one of your daughter's friends or neighbors or something? Because like, yeah, but I just couldn't be involved. And then he goes on this weird tangent about motives. Oh, the more twisted the motive, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. They're just talking about who could be the killer. It just, again, goes on and on and on and on. There's like a mention of like basically similar things being found at the scene, because like a bonnet was found with Marianne's body, and like the Ripper's second victim was wearing a new bonnet. I'm like, where is this coming from?
Well, and show it. Like, you can't just like pass this off like in like expositionary dialogue and like act like we're gonna catch all of this. I'll be honest, like a lot of the shit you're saying, I didn't even fucking catch it. And I've seen this movie so many times, and I watch it to this day. I still know what the fuck's going on, because it is like all over the fucking place. And they'll just like randomly like kind of just like mumble something through an accent, and I don't know what's being said, and there I miss half the plot. So yeah, it's weird.
It really is an excuse for Kelso to just be more ominous, because his whole thing, he's talking about, about motives. And he's like, I don't like those more straightforward motives. I like motives to be a little bit fucked up. Like I want someone's motive to be really, really fucking twisted. And you're like, dude, why are you saying, like, that's weird. And then you find out that he went into Kane's office and stole his book. He's like, "Oh, I took this from your office. I hope you don't mind."
And then Kane, like, begrudgingly is like, it's on me. And everything it's always raining, by the way. This is a very wet movie. I like that the two older gentlemen have a moment, contrasting accents. It works for me. But after this, like, again, their paths don't really cross a lot. Like, a lot of these, like, the element of, like, the detective is always, like, kind of, like, on the outskirts of this story. And it really kind of just follows along after Molly. So, like, a lot of times I feel like Kelso really doesn't have that much impact on what's happening. Like, his presence is a character that I could have probably done without, especially because this is a forensics class. So, like, the professor already himself has, I'm assuming to a certain, degree, he's a former cop, he's a former police officer. So he could kind of fill the void, I think, of what Kelso is already supposed to be, and thus give his character more purpose. I really think these characters could have been consolidated into one character and maybe just felt a little more coherent because of it. There is this beat here where Chantel and Jason, like, kind of are having some sexual chemistry, and, like, I don't understand, like, who's fucking who in this film. Like, it feels like one big open relationship between everybody. People are fucking teachers. Teachers are fucking people masked at parties. Students are fucking each other. It just really, it's a weird relationship that she has with him, because she approaches it later being very very territorial of Jason. But aside from this beat here, up to this point, I didn't even think they were a couple. Like, did they give that vibe off to you?
No, not at all. Like, and I mean, it comes out of nowhere. She's telling Jason, that he should probably stay clear of Molly, and there are rumors that Molly and Kane are fucking. I'm like, okay, that comes out of nowhere. But then, well, lo and behold, it happens. And Chantel tries to kiss him, but then, like, the group walks in, and we get this whole moment where they are, like, decoding the message that was left on the wall at Marissa's death, and they realize it was from one of the From Hell letter. That's really, one of the most notorious clues ever left at a crime, for a crime scene. They decide that they need to figure out if the wounds on Mary Ann's body match those of the Ripper's victim, Polly Nichols. And so far, they've started to establish, Roger, that the initials are the same. Like, the first of the victims, like Marissa Tovares, she was the first victim. The first victim of the Ripper was, like, Mary T something. And now Mary Ann's, we find out her real name was, like, Pollyanna or something. I don't know. It's real weird. But conveniently enough, Andy works at the morgue, and she's like, "Well, I have my keys. I'll go check out the body." Yeah, and then when everyone leaves, like, Molly is approached by Chantel, who apologizes to her for being a bitch. She's like, "I'm sorry. I've been so rude to you. Jason really likes you, and I think you should pursue it." But then later, she turns into a cunt again. It's so weird.
Inconsistent. Everyone is so fucking inconsistent in this movie.
Yeah, and now we cut to the morgue, where Andy is checking out Mary Ann's body and comparing the wounds to that of Polly Nichols, and she realizes, oh my gosh, they are identical. And then you start to hear strange noises, and she investigates, and we see that there's a figure down there with her, so she flees, but she's, like, locked. I don't know. She doesn't really tries the door, but she acts like she's locked in. And this whole thing plays out really weird because, like, the phone rings. She picks it up, and, like, caller hangs up, but it's like, and then she just starts screaming again. It's like, honey, you realize that phones work both ways, right? You could pick the phone back up and call 911. It obviously works. Does she do that? No.
The progression of this whole scene is all, like, just mind-boggling. You've got this amazing location. It's a morgue. I mean, but, like, it's this, you come in this big skyscraper building, and then all of a sudden you're at the fucking morgue, and bodies everywhere, big space. It looks really good. And great. Like, this is a film about forensics. Like, let's get into it. And so you're seeing the corpses. Marianne's corpse looks way more fucked up than she did when they found her. I'll tell you that much. And so she's looking at the bodies, and they're so quick to get this moving. Like, for having such a great location, you would think that they would like kind of like based in it a little bit. But all of a sudden, like, she starts to hear someone approaching, and she gets suspicious, and there's suddenly a figure down there with her, and she goes to run, but the door is locked, but the figure doesn't follow her. So she goes back, and all of a sudden there's blood written on the walls, another letter from hell. And it's like, it doesn't connect. Like, everything feels like it's happening because it has to, but it's a very unnatural sequence. Like, nothing about the sequence, be it the revelations, what she's finding, that doesn't make sense to me that would be there. Did the killer do that in the brief moment that she ran to go out the door? Like, or has it been there the whole fucking time?
Well, no, what's written on the wall is what makes you think I'm outside the room? Like, how would he know that she was going to run in that specific room to try to hide? I mean, yeah, when did he do it? Like, yeah, it makes zero sense.
There's just no way it would have fucking happened, And like, and then so she goes to make a run for it, and she gets this like syringe to the back. You've got this whole moment here where she goes down that like was injected in like her spine. So, okay, like, this is a setup. At least they're getting to what I'm assuming is going to be like the main course of this. Like, they're rushing through the pursuit. I'm expecting that there's going to be this big trippy sequence with a lot of gore. This is my anticipation. Lots of zoom-ins on eyeballs and weird cuts and flashes. Instead, what we get here is not what I needed out of this moment at all. At all. I didn't think I needed it from this film in general. But we get the two girls, the two victims, who then proceed to like sit up while Andrea is in this drug-induced stupor, sit up around her, and like they're dressed like the victims that they're representing in the Ripper's kills. And it's a weird choice. It's definitely like a kind of a bold choice to do this, but at least they're still trying to maintain that Ripper element that we lose towards the end of the movie. And they lean into it really heavy. Fucking Marianne's talking with a Cockney accent. Goddamn Marissa's dressed like a fucking street whore. And they're basically like, you're going to die. And I'm like, okay. Like, she's having hallucinations. They're really building it up. I am thinking at this point that I am in for a treat. If you're not only going to fucking have this big pursuit, well, not big, it was really kind of lackluster, but this pursuit, and then this whole sequence, this drug-induced stupor with people fucking talking in accents and building up to all of this, you're going to give me a big kill, right? Troy, what a fucking waste of a sequence. What is this? It is so unsatisfying.
It cuts to the next day. Yeah, I mean, I thought when I first saw these visions that she's having of Marissa and Marianne dressed as 1880s prostitutes, I'm like, what the fuck? I did not remember this. And it comes off, I think they really wanted it to be creepy, but it comes off as being so fucking corny.
It does.
And then it just cuts. And we find out basically that she was killed because the rest of the group goes to hunt down Molly to inform her that Andy has been murdered. Her throat was cut from ear to ear, her guts ripped out, and intestines thrown over her shoulder, just like Annie Chapman, the third victim of Jack the Ripper. Why didn't we see that? I wanted to see some guts thrown over shoulders. We don't see any of that.
Why are you telling me all this fucking great stuff that I should have had, and all you showed me is a shot of the blade like starting to insert in like the top of like the chest? Like, you see the blade hit like around like what, the sternum, I'm guessing, and you start to just see ever so little bit, like ever so slightly a bit of blood, and all of a sudden it's a fucking zoom in on an eyeball. I don't want to see zoom ins on eyeballs. I want to see fucking intestines over shoulders. And like, even you could do it creatively. Like, you could do flashes of it. I'm not saying I need a long drawn out shot of an intestine being put over a woman's shoulder. If you got it, flaunt it. But you don't need to do that in a movie called Ripper that is, the characters are literally studying the deaths that were, the kills that were committed by the original killer and recreating them. I expect to see that. Like, I anticipate that you're going to give me some of that, and I don't get any of it. And I'm pissed off about it.
Oh, no, unfortunately not. They just tell Molly, yeah. And then we find out that fucking Chantel talked to Aaron and to find out that Molly was the survivor of virtually the exact same thing that's happening now. Because I forgot to mention, it's established early on when Aaron first runs up to Molly at the beginning of the film that he knows who she is, right? He knows who she is. He knows that she survived that ordeal because he was a classmate of hers. And at that point, she threatens him. She's like, don't you ever talk about my past. Well, Chantel thinks that something is odd with Molly, so she actually confronts Aaron and he tells her all about Molly. Well, this turns into a big fucking ordeal. And I mean, Jason just explodes on her and yells at her about how she should have told them that you put us all in danger. How dare you? You know, and she he gets really fucking aggressive until she like slaps him and she's like, don't you talk to me that way. And he's like, it's really sad that you can't trust anyone. And like, she storms off. She's like, I can only rely on myself.
What are these people wearing in this scene? I just need to ask right now, who the fuck costumed this movie? This scene specifically, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Jason, it looks like David Boreanaz, Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray, and Catherine Zeta-Jones as Theo from The Haunting stepped in and lent their wardrobe for a day of production for this sequence. Because everyone looks like a fucking idiot. Everyone's wearing only black and red. They look like they're going to a vampire cosplay convention. Like, it's just such a weird decision to put them all in the exact same color palette. But okay. So we'll move on. This high drama between Chantel's accent and Eddie's fedora and this like rainstorm and Jason verbally he's almost like physically manhandling this poor girl. Like, he is screaming at her. When Jason screams, it's definitely like anger issues screaming. It's big. And it's just, I thought he was going to hit her. It's very offensive. And then so finally she fucking slaps him. And then he stops and he's like, it's really a shame you can't trust anyone. It's like, bro, you were just borderline manhandling me. Back the fuck off. Like, yes, I'm going to slap you. And no, I don't trust anybody who screams at me like that.
But I'm wondering, yeah, I guess, I mean, she probably could have told the group that she kind of went through this same experience again. I kind of see why she doesn't, but I think, yeah, wow. I mean, he unleashes, it's volcanic, and it's kind of shocking because his character up until this point has been pretty much a nice guy. But I mean, poor Molly storms out and takes off, and, you know, Kane happens to like come up from behind a pillar. He sees what just transpired, and Molly's back at her apartment, and we literally get another early 2000s indie rock track and a montage of her, Roger, running, spray painting, throwing things around, sitting on a rock. I love the moment where she's just like sitting on a rock and just pondering life.
She's not just sitting on a rock, Troy. She's sitting on a fucking cliff. You tell me how this girl in this big old baggy trench coat and these Hot Topic boots scaled the side of this cliff. No soft goth is going to make it out to that fucking cliff, let alone sit there alone for hours in the middle of the sunlight, baking, cooking in the sun. I don't see that being something that she could have pulled off unless a helicopter dropped her there. You get the footage of her just running in the middle of the street, running. All of this, again, this very Freed-esque soundtrack. And we get the whole song. Half of the song is the montage of her running and sitting on cliffs. And the other half is her just destroying her room for 2 minutes straight. Like, she is just destroying this drug den bedroom that she's got, tearing things, breaking things. And then like it has this shot of her just sitting there after the fact, just like broken in the middle of her room. And on her mattress, if you look, it looks like someone like got their head blown off on her mattress. There's just like a blood stain. Maybe it's supposed to be paint, but it looks like blood. It's just a real rough situation. This girl is not processing things well at all.
But where does this lead? Probably one of the biggest what the fuck moments of a film I have seen in a very long time. Because Professor Kane, first of all, he just wanders into her apartment. Like, he doesn't knock or anything. He just like shows up and they hug, which fine, I guess. But like throughout the whole film, she has been very antagonistic towards him, right? Like these two would be the farthest from any sort of chemistry or a charisma against each other that I could imagine. He hugs her and he's like, I know, I'm a survivor too. She begins to like lift his shirt off, starts caressing his back and sees that he has scars on his back. And she's like, oh, he did this to you. Now I understand. Roger, they start fucking making out. Like these two fuck.
First, it's like, dude, what are you doing here? It's like, why are you even here in my drug den bedroom? How did you find me? Is my first question. Second of all, why are you touching me? Like, why are you touching me? And then they go in, they go to hug, and the hug alone is awkward. Like, let alone what comes after. The hug feels just very like uncomfortable. Creed is blasting. And it's just a very like not sexy moment. And then all of a sudden, like, and I did not remember any of this. I'm going to say this right now. I didn't remember anything to do with her fucking her professor so casually. But you're right. I have sensed zero chemistry between this girl and this grown ass man the entire movie. And then out of nowhere, this happens. And it is drawn out. And they're just looking at each other, gaping mouth, looking at each other. And she's unbuttoning his shirt. She takes off his shirt. It's not sexy. And then she comes around and ever so slowly, their faces start to come together slowly. And then I think they start to kiss. And it's like, what are you waiting for? Like, if you're going to give me an awkward student fucks teacher moment, get it the fuck over with. Let me move on with the rest of the film. This is the last thing that we're probably an hour and 20 minutes into the movie. This was the last development I needed. It does not do me well.
It comes out of nowhere, and then it's like not explored. Like, was it supposed to start like some budding relationship between these two? Because if that's the case, it's definitely not mentioned ever again. And you can't just throw our final girl in the middle of the movie, have her fuck her professor, and just not have it go anywhere. Like, what the fuck? And not only that, I'm assuming this is the second student he's banged, because he banged fucking what's her name in the bathroom at the beginning. What's even worse, I guess, is like Jason, who we know Jason is smitten with Molly. They at least have some chemistry together, probably because they're the same age. But he goes to her apartment to apologize to her for being an asshole, and he sees them like making out. I want to know from a screenwriting perspective, Roger, what does this do for the plot?
Beyond that, Troy, yes, what does it do for the plot? It doesn't do anything, and it's not explored enough to feel like there's a payoff at all. But also, like, it's a long moment, and there are a couple of moments at this point moving forward that are trying to kind of like force this chemistry between these characters that I just don't need at all. These are valuable minutes in this film that could have and should have been devoted to making the kill scenes that we've seen better. Why are you giving me this big fucking spinning sequence where the camera's spinning around them and that fucking guitar? We're getting just shredding the guitar, shredding it. They're kissing, they're touching uncomfortably. And it's just, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't need this. Like, this is not what I'm here for. I would have rather seen Andrea get her guts pulled out like you told me they did. And instead, I'm watching this 50-year-old man make out with this 20-some-year-old girl. And I can see that when I'm watching anything to do with the White House right now with that fucking, with that blonde broad. What's her name? You know what I'm talking about. I can't fucking stand her with that bad nose job. But yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, I'm like, these are valuable minutes that in a horror movie should have been put to utilize better, should have been put to use in a better way.
But also, I mean, let's again reiterate the fact that this film is almost 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And I would say a good 20% of that runtime is these long indie rock montages we get. But yeah, these two fuck. But then it transitions to like what I would consider this is kind of the climax of the film. The group, because they wanna really solve this, and they want to stick together, obviously, because they know someone is killing them off one by one. So they decide to all gather at Kane's isolated cabin that basically Kelso suggested they go to stay safe. Again, they start to discuss the fact that the killings are very reflective of Jack the Ripper. Someone suggests, I think Molly suggests, or someone suggested the killer could be a descendant of Jack the Ripper. I'm like, what? But then they figure out the initial thing. They realize that the next victim, based on initials, should be Eddie, because the next Ripper victim was Elizabeth Stride, and Eddie's name is like Eddie. What is it? Eddie Stuckman or Stackman or something like that. So he's all freaked out. And then it's going to be Chantel, because Catherine Dowles was the 5th victim or whatever. They all figured out. And but then it gets to like the final victim of Jack the Ripper was Mary Kelly. So they come to find out the final 3 have the initials MK. Molly Keller, Kane, his first name, I don't know what the fuck is for, Michael. We'll say Michael Kane. And then Jason reveals that he goes by his middle name, that his real name, first name, is Michael. So that gives him the initials MK. So any one of these 3 are going to be the final victim, if not all of them. It's kind of ironic because she did go on to be in Final Destination 2, but does this not give you like Final Destination vibes?
Honestly, I have a huge gripe with this book. Troy, listen, if this was Final Destination, sure. But that's not. This is a slasher that's supposed to be real life, I think. And how are you going to tell me that somehow, some way, all these fuckers have just the initials they need to have to make this nonsense make sense? I can see if she was behind the scenes, yeah, I'll make sure that they all have the right initials, but that's not the case. It's said that's not the case. So that means that these random people all came together and somehow, some way, all had the same initials as the victims. But then also we come to find later, not only that, but the word teacher is hidden within their names as well when stacked in the appropriate order. I got a problem with it. It's too far-fetched. There's no fucking way this would have happened. How did it happen? I need more explanation.
Well, it is. They try to they try to steer us down this direction, because then they start to profile the Ripper, who this could be. And they mention that it has to be someone that's really fucking intelligent, but socially inept. And this is, Roger, when Aaron Croker's name is brought up. And Kane's like, oh, Aaron, yeah, he is kind of an odd one. And he basically asked me if he could assign the study groups. Red flag, right? Because now he has he put these specific people into the study group. So that's where, the fact that they all have the same initials could come into play, because he would have orchestrated that. It's not him. Spoiler. So it makes zero sense. Molly does reveal that she went to school with him and he knows about her past. So they are definitely giving this Aaron dude criminal treatment, because even Kane's like, oh, well, because he's so weird, I let him come to my cabin and do odd jobs around here. So now that's revealed that he knows where the cabin was. And guess what, Roger? He does, because he's fucking outside watching them.
Too many things are happening as they need to happen here. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Aaron is at all even tied into this situation. They do try to explain it. She's like, oh God, I forgot. I went to school with him, and we also kind of forgot that we didn't let him go to that island, so now he's pissed. They try to explain it all with some hint of backstory, and I'm I would have liked that explored more. That's something that seems a little more reasonable. He knows her from school, he remembers her, and she's tried to keep distance because of that. But it's such an afterthought. The character of Aaron has gotten so little attention that, like, for him to be a red herring at this point, it just feels like there's too many other things going on. I know this guy's not going to actually be the killer. Like, it's just too obvious. Every time he's on camera, it's just to make him seem so unreasonably creepy and uncomfortable and awkward that, like, because of it, he's not actually doing anything for the sake of the story. He's just there to be a suspect. He's just written in to be a suspect. So if he didn't be the killer, it would have been really unsatisfying. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't feel like it makes enough sense to even bring him back, but he's there. Like, I don't know why he's there. I don't know what his goal is pursuing them. Like, he does say at one point he thinks he knows who the killer is, but it's like in passing. Like, you get so little of it that it just doesn't feel of value. His presence doesn't feel of any value.
Yeah, and like, how did he get there? There's a whole lot of and so at this point, they kind of they all think that it is Aaron. So Kane wants to call Kelso to tell him that they figured out who the killer was. When lo and behold, the phone is dead. And instead of just like getting in their cars and driving away, they blame the storm being so bad on the fact that they can't leave. But it's really not that bad, because as we find out, 3 of these people leave here in a minute. There's some cockamamie thing with the phone is being powered by a satellite up on the mountain, and so the satellite must be out, and like and Kane is like, is anybody good with electronics? And Jason's like, yeah, I can fix it. So Jason goes out with Eddie, who insists on going with him because he thinks he's going to be the next victim if he doesn't, to go fix this phone satellite, which I don't know. That to me seems like it would be a special like skill. Just because you can put a whatever electronic together doesn't mean you're going to know how to fix a fucking satellite. But lo and behold, they leave. Chantel takes the opportunity to be a bitch to Molly one last time by telling her, you know what? I just want you to know that you're not special. Like, my parents don't even know I exist, and you think you're special, and you better stay away from Jason. He's mine. And then she like storms out after. I mean, what?
I also want to note here, just because like we haven't really touched on this, all it took was girl getting a good senior citizen dick down from Daddy Professor to suddenly be back and cool with the group. Not saying she's cool with them, but like now she's there. Like that big like confrontation they had a bit ago is like not even being addressed. Like they're all in the same space together. But now Chantel has this whole moment where she's being a cunt again. And it's like, okay, bitch, like pick a lane. Like either be my friend or be a fucking bitch. I can handle it either way. But like you're wishy-washy, Chantel. And like Chantel's a character who I think really probably gets some of the worst development overall, between her accent making it hard to kind of gauge her exact intention and like emotions, and like how her character's developed it to this point. I don't know what her end game is. I couldn't tell you a thing about Chantel. Sometimes she seems like she wants one thing, other times she wants another. Sometimes she seems like she wants Jason. Like I can't figure out like what her, like I said, like what her end game is here. So now you launch into this whole moment where it's her and the boys, and I just kind of started realizing, and I put a note about this, like, do you notice how like unlikable these characters have become? Everyone is just completely like kind of gone off the rails, and now everyone's just like at each other's throats and being shitty. And like this is not really a cast of characters where you're rooting for anybody. Like there's nobody here that I'm like, oh boy, I hope they make it. They're all just being shitty to each other, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because the Jeep stalls, and Eddie and Jason start screaming at each other. Like, why do you know? I mean, it gets really aggressive. And so finally, Jason's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go up to the mountain, fix the satellite. You guys wait here and lock the doors. Ha ha ha. It's a joke because as Jason trots away, Eddie realizes the Jeep does not have locks. You can't lock the door. So Eddie decides he's going to get out and try to see if he can fix the Jeep. So he gets out, pops the hood. He's, telling Chantel to like stay in the car, don't turn it on until, he tells her to. And as he's out there, we get that jump scare because she does get out of the car and he kisses her. Did you notice that?
He even paused. You noticed that? Like, it seemed like it was an error. Like, he paused and then he kissed her and then he said his line again. And like, what the fuck is that? That's what I'm saying. Everyone here is trying to like have a relationship with each other. I mean, I think he's attracted to her, but like, it's never explored at all. She's an adjacent. So what the fuck is he doing kissing her?
Well, he does. So she gets back into the car, and basically ends up happening is the killer comes up to the window and reaches in and bashes her head against the steering wheel. And I mean, she screams. He doesn't hear it, even though Eddie's right outside. He doesn't hear her scream. He's like digging his hand into the thing, and the car starts, and he freaks out. He's like, "Chantal, I told you don't start it until I tell you, you stupid bitch." So he goes from like kissing her and being real gentle with her to now being like aggressively calling her a dumb bitch. And he puts his hand back down in there. The fucking car starts again, fucking chops his hand. I mean, his hand gets stuck in there. The hood falls down. At this moment, Chantal wakes up and thinks that, I don't know, she has to drive off. So she literally floors the Jeep, and he's screaming bloody murder because he's stuck to the hood.
This whole fucking scene makes no fucking sense at all. I mean, first of all, the guys are at each other's throats, being fucking bitches, screaming at each other. Jason just takes off into the wilderness. So, you know, again, red herring vibes as you do. And then you've got this whole bit where Eddie's putting himself in this extremely like vulnerable scenario, like, you know, hood up, back to the wilderness. Like, you know that he's going to get fucking attacked. And so this whole bit where she gets knocked out, they've added all of this really over the top thunder. Like, it sounds like the world is crumbling. This lightning is so loud. The thunder is just booming. And so they have this whole bit where she, you know, gets knocked out. And yeah, she screams. And like, you would hear that. I don't care how loud the thunder is. She's 2 feet away from you. Like, if you brought that hood down, she'd be right there, you know? And so for him to not hear that makes literally no sense. And for the killer to just be right there kind of operating the vehicle and everything without him noticing it literally makes no sense. So when his arm gets caught in the vehicle, it's kind of cool because it looks really painful. But then when she fucking snaps to it and starts driving, hood is up, like, car's on, but like, what kind of rationale is that? Why would you drive if you have no ability to see in front of you? Because the hood is up. So she can't see that he's caught, but there's just like why would you operate the vehicle? Why would you drive forward? There's trees everywhere. Like, this is a horrible decision, but she does. So she takes out driving. Guy's hanging off of the fucking hood. Same fucking stunt double that we've been seeing the whole time. I'm convinced of it. She plows him into a goddamn tree, and then she just gets out and she's waddling around. She just walks away from the vehicle as though nothing happened. And he's going to literally call out to her. He's literally like, Chantal. And she turns around, and then, and only then, she's like, oh. And then she walks over, and it's like the least like response that I could have expected in this moment. Like, she gives the very least. She's just like looking at him, reaching out to him. It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is, I don't think it's him that calls her. I did the first time I watched it, I was like, wait a minute, that dude is dead. Like, there's no way he's calling Chantal. He is literally slammed against a tree at 50 miles an hour. That dude is dead. Watched it a second time, and I really think it's the killer that calls her to turn around, because as she turns around and looks, she is bashed in the face with that knife or whatever it is. I think Eddie is dead, but like, yeah, she has literally no reaction to crushing this man. And now this is the point where the Jack the Ripper shit goes right out the fucking window, because all the deaths that happen now are almost like accidents, right? Nothing is intentional. Like, the killer's not killing anybody at this point. It's real weird. But she's hit in the face. Eddie's smashed against a tree. She takes off running. I want to know where the fuck they're at, because she comes into this huge, like, what is this? A tree warehouse where they, what do you want to call it? A sawery?
A logging, like a factory?
There you go. A logging. But she runs in, and the minute she gets in, she accidentally backs up against the the button to turn on that giant fucking saw where all the lumber is chopped. You know, it's that circular saw and its limbs are getting chopped. And she runs upstairs and immediately runs into Aaron. How did he get in here? Like, why is he in here? We don't know. He was just in front of the house. Now he's in this logging facility. He grabs her. He's like, Chantel, I know who the killer is. And instead of like listening to him or doing it, she fucking kicks him in the balls. And they both barrel over the fucking side of the balcony and land in that fucking tree trunk chopper. And I mean, this is an intense scene, but like the killer did not do this. Like these two go out because she kicks him in the fucking balls and they fall over the edge. Like the killer had nothing to do with these two being killed. But you do get that moment where his head goes into the saw and it looks really fucking cool. And, you know, she's trying to climb out, and as she gets out, the saw starts again and her head's chopped off by that fucking thing. Again, an elaborate setup, but I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way that Chantel basically kills half the cast and not the Ripper.
I almost feel like they had a chase scene that they wanted to use for another movie, and they're like, we got to get it in here. Like that's how it feels to me. Because I mean, like, it's not a bad chase. Like, we finally get a proper chase. It's not huge, but she's running through the rain. She comes upon this, you're right, this lumberyard factory, you know, and so she goes inside this warehouse. It feels very Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know, circa 2004. So technically this is a few years before that. But then she gets inside this building and she's running through this space, and she's getting chased by the killer, or so she thinks. And it's pretty good. Like they're drawing it out, and then she fucking runs into Aaron. And like, okay, this is a good development. Like, this is cool. Like, bring his character back in. He says he thinks he knows who did it. Exploring that, knowing the little bit of backstory I know with him, would have been great for me. Like, understanding why he suspects who the killer is. Giving me a little bit more information. A couple more breadcrumbs would have been nice. And then, yeah, she knees him in the balls, and they go over into this fucking lumber contraption. And as cool as it is, first of all, I think this place would have to have way more safety precautions in case somebody fell into this thing, because there is no way you're getting out of it. Second of all, it is pretty terrifying. Like, this is one of the few moments where the adrenaline starts to race, where they're on this thing. He's screaming like a banshee, and then his head gets sawed through, though you see a little bit of it. I wish I saw significantly more. I don't think they were capable of doing what they wanted to do. So instead, you just get this weird, like, nub neck effect that doesn't look that great, but I'll settle compared to what else I've seen prior. And then you've got this great moment where, because he gets sawed, his boot gets caught in the middle of the saw and it gets stuck. So she tries to crawl through it to escape. And then the boot gets dislodged just as she's underneath the blade, so it decapitates her. And it really is probably one of the more violent moments in the film, and one of the better kill sequences, because we get a double kill. So I'll take it. But yeah, it feels completely off from the tone of the rest of the movie. Like, this has nothing to do with Jack the Ripper. Random new victim thrown in the mix who doesn't, I don't believe the initials, like Aaron's initials, aren't playing factor here. That's not important. So like, it just doesn't feel at all associated with the murders that have happened up to this point. And yeah, it's cool, but it doesn't feel like it should be within the same universe, to be honest.
Yeah. I was going to say, it feels like it's from a totally different movie. And again, you think about it, Chantel kills just as many people in this film as the Ripper. I mean, it's really weird. It's such a weird choice. But back at the cabin, we don't know like what Molly and Kane have been up to, but he apparently disappeared because she's like shouting for him. And then remember, she gets an alert on her computer because her computer's hacked into the FBI database. So she gets an alert and she goes out to check it out. And she realizes that the blood and semen results from Marissa and Marianne's murders have come back. The semen matches Kane. So he railed that broad in the bathroom. The blood matches Jason, although it's planted because there's a moment earlier in the film where we see the gloved hand take a vial of blood and it has Jason's name on it. I don't know where this vial of blood with his name on it, why it would be anywhere, but there we go. So she automatically thinks it's Jason, and so she basically finds like this cross. Remember that cross that's hanging on that necklace? She finds that, and then all of a sudden, Jason appears at the door, and she refuses to let him in. And instead of acting like a stand-up guy, he leaps through the glass.
He couldn't be any more threatening if he wanted to. This guy is really bad about keeping his aggressive anger problems under wraps, because he shows up at the door and his instinct is to start screaming at her. And I'm like, listen, dude, like right now, like you can't really trust anybody. Like you shouldn't be screaming at this girl if you think that she's in any way going to help you. Like you should be like, hey, I'm not going to try to make any sudden moves. I'm not going to try to startle you. I'm not trying to kill you. Like you really want to make sure that she's going to, trust you. And his instinct here, especially knowing the outcome again, just seems like it just doesn't make sense. Like, why would he throw himself through this glass door? He's coming off so fucking threatening,
Yeah, and he leaps through the glass, and like Molly grabs a fireplace poker, tries to find a way out. She creeps around, and like Jason, he just pops out and tries to grab her, and she has to hit him with his poker. So at this moment, you really are thinking that Jason is the killer. Kane also suddenly appears, and Molly like runs outside. It's so convenient. Like now everyone is here. We had Aaron, but now Kelso is here. He's wandering around. Kane goes after Molly. Jason goes after Molly. Jason grabs an axe and is chasing Molly around with an axe. It is raining. This is deja vu because it looks very much like the opening. It looks like the opening with her running through the rain. It's the exact same thing. She's running through a forest, and it's pouring rain. Jason does catch up to her, and he tries to explain to her that he is innocent, but she beats the shit out of him with that fireplace poker, and she takes off. And when she takes off, someone picks up the axe that he had and axes him to death. And again, missed opportunity. We don't see anything. We hear him like plead, and then we see the axe raise. That's it.
Oh my God. The whole idea to give him an axe to begin with, like, I just don't understand what they're trying to do with his character other than make him such a red herring that, even she thinks he's the killer. But, like, he really hasn't done anything. Like, yeah, he's had a few anger outbursts, but overall, he hasn't done anything here. The blood that we find out is his blood was planted, like it is stated here in a moment. So for him to suddenly become so aggressive, just, again, it doesn't make sense. So bringing this axe into play, like maybe he's going to defend both of them in case they encounter the killer, but like don't be so fucking threatening about it. Like he's chasing after her, screaming for her, and it's not until like he stumbles upon her that he's like, no, wait, please, I want to explain myself. And she's like, no, and she like beats him upside the head and she takes off again. And it's like, I mean, I get why she's like, fuck off, dude. Like you've done so many things here. You just threw yourself through a glass fucking door. You think I'm going to suddenly start trusting you? Like, no, you should have been more chill about it.
Yeah, I mean, totally out of character and totally just overly aggressive for no reason other than to satisfy what we needed from the plot or what the filmmakers wanted from the plot. This doesn't feel natural at all. Like this character's progression in this moment is totally out of whack with what we've seen through the entire film. But he's dead now. She runs back to where she left Jason, and now she sees Kane like kneeling over him, and she basically is like, you did it. And he's like, no, I did not. And then she sees his shoes, and she's like, it was you were at the club. And he's like, yeah, I was at the club, but I didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, fucking Kelso comes out, knocks Kane out, grabs the cross necklace out of Kane's hand, because Kane had this cross necklace, which has been important because the opening scene, during the opening scene when Molly goes onto that boat, there is a necklace hanging from like the door. That's the same necklace that's, I guess, signifying that, I don't know, it's a killer's, it's like supposed to be like the killer's trademark. I don't fucking know, but it's a necklace. And he basically is like, this is the last piece of evidence I need to put Kane away. It was found at his house with a vial of Jason's blood. So he planted the blood to frame Jason, but it was really him all along. And then Kelso's like, oh, it's finally over. Fine. But then Molly starts having flashbacks of the night on the island. And during these flashbacks, we see that she was the killer, that she killed all of her friends.
There's a lot of things happening in a very short period of time here. I mean, first of all, we're going full Shining, having Jason walking around with a fucking axe, looking like a villain. Then he gets killed. Unsatisfying kill. Really bad edit. You don't see anything. Then she runs off, but then she comes back, fucking sees Kane. Now he's fucking seeming like a psycho. He's seeming all fucking aggressive, screaming at her. Everybody here chooses to go whack job at the wrong time, and it makes him look suspicious. So then he's, flipping his shit, and he's starting to give like this weird bit of exposition, and he's implying, basically, he's saying things about like giving it, give me all of you, or what is he screaming at her? He's talking something about like,
yeah, you told me to give myself to you, and I gave myself to you, but now you need to give yourself to me. Real weak.
So I guess, did he take her whole confrontational moment where she called him out in that class at the beginning of the movie? Like, I mean, maybe he just took it to heart, because now he's like, give yourself to me and I'm giving myself to you. And he gets out of nowhere, again, very against character. Kane gets really fucking wacko for like 10 seconds, but it barely happens because all of a sudden Kelso comes in and knocks him the fuck out. And I am sorry, but with everything that's happened thus far and the amount of time that they spent with those weird fucking makeout scenes and everything, like, again, here's a moment that needed like 5 more minutes to really explain what is happening here. I should understand exactly what the motive was. I should understand, if Kane did plant the blood, if he did do any of these things, but the outcome is still what I think it is. I should understand what were his motives to do what he did do, and I also need to know what did he not do, so I know who the real killer is to begin with. Because there's just too much. This is confusing. Part of me thinks that they're trying to tell me that Kelso has determined that not only is Kane the killer now, but Kane was also the killer with the original murders because he's got the necklace. Am I understanding that right?
That's what it's insinuating, but then you get Molly. You throw her into the mix now, and her flashbacks.
These flashbacks, fuck off with these flashbacks. If you're going to give me these flashbacks, you need to do it with a little more style and intentionality. Like, out of nowhere, they're just giving me these flashbacks right after fucking the detective is like, oh, Molly, we did it. We know who the killer is. And then they just cut to her eyes and they're like flashbacks. And I'm like, whoa, wait. So you're giving me one thing and then you're showing me another. And I didn't even have a moment to like catch my breath. Which one is true? What is the outcome here? I can't tell you. I really don't know. I think I know that she's the killer, but I don't know for sure because this movie is so vague with its final like ramp up that I don't know what the outcome is for sure. What do you think happened?
Well, I mean, if we want to extend on to the kind of the 5 years later, we see that Kane is about to be executed. He was put on death row for the murder. So, like, I mean, whoever planted the evidence certainly did so enough to make sure this dude got the death penalty because he's going to be executed. We see that And if you look at the names of all of the students now, it spells out like teacher, but that to me seems like, did you see how they had to arrange them to spell that? Like, I feel like if you take any 8 names, you could probably spell teacher if you put the names on top of each other and stacked them. I'm assuming those are very common letters, Teacher. You're going to find those in virtually any name, especially a first name and a last name. I think this is stretching it, especially the way that now, if it was the first letter of each name and it spelled out teacher, I'd be like, oh, okay. But you have to see how they have it. Like, it's all random. It's like they forced it to spell out teacher. Like, one of it's like the second letter of the last name. One of it's the third letter of the first name. That makes zero sense. It's like forced.
It's so forced. It does not feel like a satisfying conclusion at all. And what else doesn't seem like a satisfying conclusion is her in that goddamn bad wig. All of a sudden, she's in a sensible black bob. I didn't even know it was her at first. She's in an all-white suit. Okay, long white trench coat. And, like, she's super confidant as she's walking out and experiencing... What year did the Jack the Ripper murders happen?
1880s. So she walks out. Now it's 1880s, and she's talking about how she's Jack the Ripper. She's Jack Quick, but then all of a sudden, it hard cuts to her fucking tied down in a straitjacket and a fucking loony bin, screaming her fucking head off, and the film ends. And I am just like, what the fuck? So, on one hand, yes, I want to say just because that she was the killer and that she framed Kane herself. I don't know. I don't think Kane was the killer, Roger. I don't.
I think that I have a hint of an idea of what actually happened, but I shouldn't be grasping at straws trying to, like, clarify it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it's pretty clear that she was actually the killer this whole time, both times. And that she, I guess, has an obsession, infatuation with Jack the Ripper. And maybe an identity crisis, which is not explored at all. I will understand how she developed that. I mean, she's interested in him. She knows a lot about him. But, like, I don't know where this is coming from because her character never gave off the impression of this, like, level of instability. And it just seems like, it just, like, for this to be the conclusion seems so lazy. So lazy. Like, for him to be going to the fucking electric chair, you see him fucking about to get sent down death row, like, and then everyone just buys this. Everyone has come to, I guess, believe that she's, in fact, not the killer. She's innocent. He's the killer. He's dying. But then she has this whole moment where she's, like, reciting back this monologue. Okay, it just ended there. But then for her to wake up in the fucking asylum herself. So has all of this been, like, did he actually get executed? Was she, I guess, identified as the killer? Did any of this happen? Like, I need to know what their intention was of ending it on that note. Because right now, it seems like it's just pointless. It's pointless.
Yeah. I mean, and you could even go one step further and question, because of the final scene of her waking up in the asylum and screaming, obviously she's experienced some trauma. So did any of this actually happen? Do you know what I mean? Or was this, is the actual only thing that happened to her really was what we saw in the opening minutes, where her friends were murdered on this island, and she's been in the asylum all this time, and she just, in her mind, she just made up this whole scenario with, her being stalked again by I don't know. I don't know how to interpret this. And it's frustrating. It really is frustrating, because on one hand, like, there's so many different ways you can go with this. Like, she's the killer, he's the killer. I don't know. Or is she just imagining that Kelso got charged with the murders and on death row, but he really is not, because she's the one that did it, and that's why she's in this asylum. One of the most confusing and unsatisfying endings of a film probably ever.
One of the worst fucking endings. It really is. And, like, I mean, I get, there's, like, these little hints of ideas that I get what they're going for. Like, just pick one of them, like pick a lane, and you could have tied it up so much better. Like, I mean, like, it doesn't seem like it would have been difficult to have a more satisfying ending here. You talked about the idea of this film being like feeling like it's like got like a lot of European influences, and I almost wonder if it was like a script, like very much in giallo fashion, that was like a European script that translated, or something like along those lines, because there seems just a lot of the giallo traits I see here are oftentimes in those scripts. Those stories are clunky. There's a lot of weird plot points. And I feel like, if anything, you have to embrace the storyline much like a giallo, because it gets very cerebral. Like it does. It gets like into her head, the idea of her being the killer, but it's not enough time spent with it. Like if they would have given that ending more time to really cook, there could have been something cool there. It could have felt, you could have given me something along the lines of like a high tension almost, where you could have wrapped it up really neatly, and kind of seen her perspective of how certain things were pulled off, if she was the killer, in fact. But for you to just tell me she's the killer, and for you to not show me how she pulled off a lot of these things that happened, a la Marianne hanging off that fucking cliff, I'm not going to buy it. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. There's got to be another explanation. This is just not good enough for me.
Unfortunately, because I watched it multiple times, the ending multiple times, to see if I was missing anything. Unfortunately, I'm not. This is just a sloppy, nonsensical ending. And I'm surprised, as a filmmaker, watching this film back, like if this was my movie, Roger, I would be like, no, we need to reshoot. We need to make this ending a little bit more fleshed out and understandable. Like for them just to be fine with the way this ends and how fucking confusing it is baffling, especially because there are certain things they took so seriously and carefully with the film, and then just to end it like this, it's a fucking mess. The ending is a fucking mess.
It's a mess. It really is. It's such a big letdown, because there's a lot of really cool concepts here. The idea to match a killer to the Jack the Ripper in general is a fucking cool concept. But like, it just feels like they had too much on their plate. They could have shoved a lot of this off and just focused on the core elements that make this work, which is a killer who is motivated to mirror the murders of, Jack the Ripper. And there was something really awesome there. Way too overbloated.
Overbloated. That the whole Jack the Ripper element's abandoned. We have to keep, again, I want to mention that the last 3 murders in the film aren't even done by the killer. I'm glad I revisited this. But I think at the end of the day, like, there's really good stuff in here. Like, I think the first death scene, Marissa's death scene, is stellar, like amazing. I would recommend the film just for that. But like, if you're going to watch this film, you really have to, I think, realize that you are going to be really pissed off when it comes to the ending. And the bloat. The film needed an editor that wasn't afraid to chop some of this stuff out. And in fact, I would go a step further and say that the script probably needed a couple of revisions before it hit filming. And it could have been like, this could have been something really memorable, really unique, and for the slasher genre, especially in the early 2000s when slashers were kind of starting to die out again. This could have been something special. Unfortunately, it's largely forgotten, and I want to say probably, unfortunately, for good reason.
Yeah. There's just too many ideas floating around in there, and I really think they could have honed it in. I hate to say this, we say this a lot, but like, this is a film that I think, like, I don't want to say a remake, but like revisiting this film and reapproaching the concept with something fresh, but keeping the core elements of what made it work would be really cool. I would like to see that basic idea of someone replicating the kills, the murders of Jack the Ripper. They did something similar with the slasher series where they explored, didn't they explore like the wife of Jack the Ripper? Or they built on the lore.
Yeah.
But that's like, we don't really see a lot unless they're going back to that time period. Mm-hmm. You don't see a lot of like Jack the Ripper themed killers. So I think there's still room for that. But this certainly is not it. And you get, I started this saying this is a film that I held very near and dear to my heart. I have a lot of good memories of it. Watching it was really eye-opening, just to see kind of how incompetent the storyline is. As a kid, as a youth, I didn't fucking care. But now, as an adult, I want so much more out of
Oh
it.
yeah, like I said, I can totally get the appeal of this film to a teenager in 2000s, especially an angsty teenager, where you're just watching, and some of the stuff that's being displayed on screen is flashy, exciting. But yeah, now watching it now, I'm going to tell you, it was kind of a chore. There is a sequel. I don't know if you've seen the sequel. I have not, but it is out there, Ripper 2. I'm curious to check it out. Have you seen the sequel, Roger?
I've not.
Okay.
I've not, and I've always meant to.
Yeah, I saw it. And I'm like, I need to check that out. I just want to see, what they do with it. But guys, that is a long time in the making. Us discussing Ripper Letter from Hell. If you watch this movie because of its review for the first time, please let us know your thoughts on this film. How do you interpret that mess of an ending? We would love to hear it. Who do you think ultimately is the killer? Was it Kane? Was it Molly? Or do you think it's someone else? Help us make sense of this fucking ending.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just as big of a mystery as the original Ripper murders themselves, and maybe that was their goal. Maybe they want to keep us asking questions, trying to figure it out, because it'll stay forever on our tongue and on our lips, Troy. Ripper, Letter from Hell. Who was the killer? Who do you think was the killer? What do you think that outcome was? Maybe that sequel will elaborate upon it. I can definitely see that being the case.
I know I don't think any of the same cast is in the sequel, but you know what? After this one, Roger, this one, wow, this ending just made me overthink. And for our next review, I just want something a little bit more straightforward. I want something that we can just sit back and not have to really think about as much, and just have fun with the film. And I've been wanting to cover this one for a long time with you. And we're going back to the early 90s. We don't really cover a lot of horror from the 90s because, let's be fair, there wasn't a lot of great stuff from the 90s until post Scream. So I want to go back to the 90s and have you watch with me, Roger, so we can discuss the 1992 slasher film, because it is a slasher film, Mikey.
I have no fucking idea what Mikey is. What is Mikey?
Oh my gosh, Roger. Do you remember the TV show Family Ties?
Yeah.
Do you remember when they had the kid, little Andy?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that was Brian Bonsall. So Mikey, Brian Bonsall's in it, and he plays a murderous adopted child. Think Orphan on steroids.
Oh, wow. Oh God. Give me a killer child. I'm looking this up right now.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever even seen this promo before.
Oh my
I know nothing
God.
about it.
That one, bro. We had Josie Bissett, I think was her name, from Charles in Charge, is in it. Oh, you're gonna have a blast with it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I love a killer child. It gives me a reason to hate children. So I'm all about that. Mikey,
that's our in honor of. Hey, I'm happy for her. I really wanted Demi Moore to win the Oscar, but we got Mikey Madison.
You know what? A ghost face. Everyone's saying it's true. She's a ghost face.
She is a ghost face.
Give her credit where credit is due.
Yep. So with that, guys, check out, let us know your thoughts. Check out Mikey before our review next week. And with that, have a great night.
Goodbye.